It's a chapter called Safina. It's a chapter called All Roads Lead to Safina.
All right. I was still lying in bed, scrolling through my Twitter feed, sipping coffee, more asleep than awake, when I saw the headline. Soha reveals major secret about Kareena Kapoor's pregnancy. What? When? Where? Who? I couldn't answer any of the 4 basic questions journalists are taught to ask, but I was already panicking. The coffee had turned to mud in my mouth and I was finding it difficult to breathe. I'm usually so careful. I never say anything about Amma, Bhai and Kareena, and especially nothing about the baby. Had I inadvertently let something slip? I sat up and scanned the rest of the article, and the more I read, the more I relaxed. The major secret was that Bhai and Kareena, or Safina, as they are together referred to, were not planning to have their child in London, as far as I knew. I remembered the interview. I remember answering the obligatory question about how I was feeling about becoming a bua again, dismissing the one about what preparations we were making, expressing vitriol about the one whether I wanted a girl or a boy for them. Will they have the baby in London? The question had come out of the blue and I was bemused. Why would they want to have the baby in London? There was some furious scribbling and a furtive exchange of glances, and I hastily added, I have no idea what they're planning, and as far as I know, they aren't planning to have the baby in London. I ended with my most convincing, but what would I know, shrug. So the fact that the baby would not be born in London, or Bolivia, or Zimbabwe, or Mars for that matter, was major news. Any tiny detail or non-detail is major news. And some journalists will come up with the most ingenious ways to uncover these tidbits, as illustrated below by the line of questioning I am often subjected to. Whilst premiering the first episode of The Great Indian Home Makeover, a televised show on interior redecorating that I host. Question. Tell us about the show. Answer. It's a home makeover show where we surprise the homeowner and make over one room in the space of 48 hours. Question. Speaking of redecorating, how are you doing the baby's room in Safina's house? Question. Speaking of time, it's a happy time in the family with the baby coming. When is it due? Question. Speaking of rings, you will be ringing in the new year with a new family member. How will all of you spend New Year's Eve? Whilst promoting the film 31st October. Question. Speaking of standing out, isn't Kareena setting new fashion trends with her baby bump? Question. Speaking of presents, what are you going to give the baby? Have you decided? During a press conference to announce Kunal and my production company, Renegade Films. Question. Speaking of names, is it true they're naming their baby Safina? You get the drift. I calculated that the damage done in this instance was minimal, so I tossed my phone aside, took another sip of my coffee, and turned to the less alarming headlines of the national press. Very nice work.